Today, I want to talk about the idea of parallel transport,
introduced by Tullio Levi-Civita
in his 1916 paper. In Euclidean space, parallel transport is understood simply. It moves every point of a figure by the same distance, in the same direction. However, on curved surfaces, this concept requires a more subtle definition. Let's now formulate what parallel transport of a vector along a curve on a surface is. Suppose a curve is given on a surface, and at the starting point of this curve, a vector is chosen, lying in the tangent plane to the surface. Parallel transport of this vector along the curve is such a movement where the vector remains tangent to the surface, and at the same time retains its length and direction from the perspective of the intrinsic geometry of the surface itself. The key observation is as follows. The independence of the parallel transport result from the path occurs only in a flat space. In other words, if a space has no curvature, then the final vector depends only on the starting and ending points, and not on which specific path we moved between them. However, if the space is curved, the situation changes fundamentally. During parallel transport along two different paths connecting the exact same points, we will, generally speaking, obtain different final vectors. This fundamental phenomenon is called holonomy. Holonomy is the rotation of a vector after parallel transport along a closed loop. As we will see later, holonomy allows us to measure curvature. It reflects not only the Gaussian curvature of a surface, but also a more general one, the Riemannian curvature of higher dimensional spaces, including the curved four-dimensional space-time in Einstein's theory. Let's now examine the extrinsic method of parallel transport. Suppose at point P, a tangent vector W is given. We will transport this vector parallel to itself in the surrounding three-dimensional space to a neighboring point Q. However, the surface is curved, so the tangent plane at point Q is already slightly rotated relative to the tangent plane at point P. As a result, the transported vector, generally speaking, ceases to be tangent to the surface and no longer lies in the new tangent plane. To obtain a tangent vector again, it must be projected onto the tangent plane at point Q. Let's denote by n of Q the unit normal to the surface at point Q. Then the normal component of the transported vector is equal to. To get the tangent component, it is sufficient to subtract its normal component from W. The resulting vector now lies in the tangent plane of the surface at point Q and represents the result of extrinsic parallel transport. However, this method cannot be applied to the entire curve at once. If we transport the vector parallel to itself directly from the starting point to the ending point, and then perform only a single projection, the result, generally speaking, will not correspond to true parallel transport. The reason is that the tangent plane changes continuously along the surface. Therefore, the curve K is divided into a large number of small segments of length epsilon. At each step, the vector is first transported parallel to itself in the surrounding space, and then projected onto the new tangent plane. After that, the process is repeated for the next segment of the curve, If we now let the step length epsilon tend to 0, the number of such transports becomes infinite, and the process itself becomes continuous. It is precisely this limiting process that defines parallel transport along a curve. One can notice another important feature of this vector projection process. At each step, by projecting the vector onto the new tangent plane, we eliminate its normal component. Therefore, the length of the resulting vector turns out to be slightly less than the length of the original one. However, with a sufficiently small step, the tangent planes at neighboring points differ only by an infinitesimal angle. Consequently, the normal component of the transported vector also becomes infinitely small. As a result, the reduction in the vector's length at each step turns out to be a second-order infinitesimal relative to the step length. Therefore, in the limit, as the step length tends to 0, the total loss of length also approaches 0. Thus, parallel transport preserves the length of the tangent vector. In this way, we have obtained a constructive method to perform parallel transport on an arbitrary surface. It is precisely this procedure that lies at the foundation of further study of holonomy, allowing us to link the change in a vector's direction with the curvature of the surface